So today I want to show you how I get really fast color grades using the Phantom LUTs for the Mavic 3. Now I've been using these LUTs for quite a while now. It's the easiest way that I can match my Sony cameras to my DJI cameras, and it's really sped up my workflow, and I want to share that with you. Let's get started. So first things first, this is not a sponsored video. These LUTs are a paid LUT. I think the Mavic 3 bundle is like $29, but I went ahead and purchased this with my own money. I have been using it for quite a while. Like I said, it's an easy way for me to match cameras. The idea behind the Phantom LUTs are that they match up with RE color science. I mean, it's not one-to-one, but it's pretty darn close. And if you know anything about cinema cameras, you'll know that RE has had a prestige color science in the cinema industry. It's something that a lot of people have chased after to try to get those smooth, beautiful highlight roll-offs. And I think Joel has done an amazing job with these LUTs, and they're pretty much, for the most part, almost drag and drop if you expose correctly, with some minor tweaks. Obviously, everybody has their own styles, so you'll have to decide, what you like the best. But let's go ahead and take a look at the clips that we're going to be taking a look at today. So in Premiere Pro, I have a couple of clips that I shot in that vlog I recently did. We have this building clip here, and then we go to the 3x camera, same building 3x, just a different angle facing the sun. Then we have much more of a muted scene because this was 3x camera, and this was shot, it was just starting to rain in this scene here. And then we have a much more sunnier scene, lighthouse, again, 3x camera, a little bit more overexposed. For the most part, I try to expose these by like a half a stop to 0.3 overexposed to try to get the exposure as good as I can. So we only have, in this whole clip, we only have one wide angle shot, and the rest are D-Log-M from the 3x camera. So let's do this. We're gonna go ahead and grab an adjustment layer, drag this over top of our clips. And then I'm just gonna simply cut each of these as needed to show you the difference between the two. So first things first, let's go ahead and grab our LUT. I'm gonna go to Browse, and I'm going to go to my Mavic 3 LUT folder. In the LUT folder that you buy, it's 5 LUTs that you are basically getting. You have Ice Blue, Jamaica, Neutral, Tungsten, and Utopia. Each of these are going to have a different style to them. I like to use the Neutral LUT, but the Utopia is my second favorite. If we just pop the Neutral LUT on there, you see it does a pretty good job. Let's go ahead and take a look at the Utopia. The Utopia, it's a very subtle change. It's supposed to be a little bit more cinematic. If we grab the Tungsten color, this one's actually nice too. It sort of almost gives it like more of a sunset vibe. I actually really like this LUT for this scene here. And then Jamaica's gonna add a little bit more green. And then Ice Blue would do exactly what you think it would do. It's gonna cool everything down. So if you have a very warm scene, that's where Ice Blue will really help you out. But I think for this scene here, I wanna grab the Tungsten. I really like this look. I'm just gonna add a little bit more saturation to the LUT because I feel like it's a little bit desaturated. You can see this LUT does a really good job of expanding the information. So if we do LUT off, you can see everything is between 60 and 20, which is pretty good. But then if we go LUT on, it expands that information a little bit further. To further bolster this grade, all I do is usually add a little S-curve. That's just bouncing up the highlights and then taking down the shadows and maybe just bouncing the midtones a little bit, because really what I'm wanting to do is expand this waveform a little bit further, just like that. Not too much, but just a little bit to really just give it a little bit more contrast. And honestly, you can just leave that as such. You don't have to do much to that. I think that looks pretty much okay the way it is. Moving on to this one here, if we're using the same LUT, because again, D-Log-M is going to be a little bit different. If we look at the D-Log-M waveform, you can see it's already pretty well expanded. It's almost at 90 and it's at 10. And then if we look at the standard D-Log, you can see there's a lot more range to color grade. So this is really important when you're looking at unimetry scopes, is that you pay attention to this, because D-Log-M is already expanded as to where D-Log needs to be pulled apart a little bit to maximize that dynamic range. So you have a lot more flexibility with D-Log than you do with D-Log-M. It's going to be a lot more forgiving when it comes to color grading, as to where this particular profile, it's not. It's easier to grade manually. So we could grade this manually, or we could use a LUT. For this instance, I'm going to use the Tungsten LUT again. And there's a couple of things we can do. First thing we could do is we can go to the creative tab if we want to use this LUT. And the reason why I want to go to the creative tab is because it allows you to dial back the intensity of the LUT. You see what I'm doing here as I'm dialing back the intensity. This is at 100% basically. And then if I dial it back to, let's say, I don't know, 42%, we're in a better starting point. And if we turn the LUT off, you can sort of see it's doing its thing. And again, same situation applies. I'm going to go to my curves tab. I'm going to do a little S curve in here. I'm probably going to do a little bit different S curve. I want to bring down these highlights a little bit because I feel like the highlights on this get blown out really easily. And then I'm going to slowly start bringing this down. The next thing I'll do to this particular clip is add a little bit more saturation to it. Even though this is easier to grade, I feel like because we're dialing the LUT back, we need to just go ahead and just add a little bit more saturation to it. And I'll just do a little on, off. That looks pretty good. And then if we really want to match it up with this, we can add a little bit more warmth to it by just switching the white balance to a little bit warmer. And I think that gives it like sort of more of a beachy vibe. And honestly, that is it for that clip. And that was like, what, less than 20 seconds? That was pretty good. And those clips match up pretty nicely. All right, let's move over to this clip here. This is actually an easier clip to color grade because this was shot in sort of an overcast setting. We got really good exposure. If we come over here to Lumetri scopes, let's go to Lumetri scopes. You can see like all that information is right between 70 and 30. Actually, the lowest comes down to 10. Now, this was, again, shot in D-Log M with the 3x zoom, and we got pretty good sensor compression here because there's not a lot of light. Now, if we come into here, this is sort of a moodier scene, and maybe I would want to use the Jamaica LUT in here just to sort of accentuate things. Now, you're going to see it's going to really want to crush down these blacks. So easiest way, again, to get around that is use our curves and just sort of drag up the lower end of the spectrum. And again, you can bring your highlights up a little bit, just like that. And again, sometimes what I like to do in these instances is not use the basic LUT correction. I like to just go to creative and just add these to my adjustment layer as a creative LUT. So we'll go do that to Jamaica. There we go. And then I'm just going to dial this LUT back until it starts looking correct. So probably about 45 or so is right for me. I'm going to amp up the saturation just ever so slightly. Go to my curves tab, a little more highlight, and right at about there. So it's just really manipulating these curves just a little bit just to get it to where you want it to be. And I think that looks pretty good. Looks nice. Something that I'm a little bit more anal about than maybe some other people would be is the color shift on the lighthouse. So if I really wanted to get this color shift perfect, what I can do is go down to my HSL secondary tab, grab my eyedropper, drop the lighthouse, and you can see like the lighthouse is has a little bit of that blue cast. So I can just sort of pull down the saturation a little bit, and that'll take some of that out of the lighthouse. But just like that, I mean, that's pretty much good to go. I wouldn't do anything else with that. I think that looks fine for what it is, and really all that looks good. And they like give it like a really nice sort of cinematic vibe to it. So let's go to this clip here. This is the 3x camera. This is on a lighthouse, a little bit more of a sunny day. There's no sky exposed, which is going to help us when it comes to grading. Same situation. I'm going to go ahead and go into my creative tab here. I'm going to go to browse. And again, we have all these LUTs. We have the Utopia, we have the tungsten, we have the neutral. I'm going to grab the neutral LUT because I feel like the neutral LUT does a really good job. You can see how it's sort of overexposing things. But if we just knock the intensity down a little bit, then we can come into here, grab our curves, and we can really pull down this quite a bit. Again, we don't want to touch zero entirely, but we want to really try to bring down the highlights as well. So this may not be an S curve. You sort of want to just come in here and watch those Lumetri scopes and watch what you're doing. And that looks pretty decent right there. The only thing I would do again is maybe add a little bit of saturation, just like that. And pretty much I may just call that done just like that. I don't think you really need to do anything else to this. Let's take a look at that. That looks pretty good. All the greens look good. Looks natural. It's not like too overexposed. We got good dynamic range. Colors in the water look good. Everything looks great. And that literally just took a couple of minor tweaks. Again, the only thing we did was touch the curves and add a little bit of saturation. And there you go. So that's the Phantom LUTs from Joe Ferramulo. They make them for Sony. They make them for a couple of other cameras as well. But what I have found is that they do work very well for the Mavic 3 Pro footage and the Mavic 3 footage. Obviously, like I said, you got to knock it back a little bit when using it for D-Log-M, because D-Log-M is already really well expanded. So in order to get them to match 1:1, you may need to knock it down to like 50%, or I like to do 40, 42%. Seems to work really well. But hopefully that'll help you. If you're interested, there'll be links down in the description below. Again, they're not affiliate links or anything like that. It's just these are the LUTs that I found that have worked best for my workflow in trying to get quick and easy grades that look good. That's the whole idea. All right, hopefully this video helps. I'll see you in the next one. Stay original.